I didn't see you there. I'm Gabe, and this is my twin brother Alex. We're builders of the flamethrower 3-pound control bot, Clyde. We recently competed this November at the National Havoc Robot League World Championship in Norwalk, Connecticut. In this video, we're going to talk a little bit about what we did preparing for the competition and how each of our fights went.
We have 3 different types of wedgelets for Clyde for this competition. First was the original shape, which we planned to use against drums, mostly. And then next, we had these keep-away wedgelets that we planned to use for robots that we wanted to keep all the way away from us. And this would be robots like Synthesis or like Droopy, for example. And then we also had something in between that we ran for most of our fights. There were these over here. And they're very similar to the drum config, but they just keep them a little bit further away from us.
For weeks leading up to the competition, we knew our first fight would be against Spartan. He's got kind of a party in the front, party in the back robot with his wedgelets in the back. So if we did run a big wedge against him, he would be able to get under us really effectively. So we chose to run wedgelets. Let's see how it went.
Fight, robots, fight.
Let's go. Clyde is one of our most exciting fire bots that we see at this tournament. Really great at the pin, the stick, and the burn, which you get to see a perfect example of that right now. All those flames going into the internal components of Spartan.
Now, Johnny Supas, our teenage driver here from the Bahamas, he continues to be just one of our best young drivers here in the sport. Now, he's covered the front of his robot with gold tape, and somehow...
Here we get our second really good burn on Spartan. You can see we're targeting the weapon belt. We found this strategy works really well. With enough heat, you can loosen an opposing robot's weapon belt so they have less startup torque, and even get it to burn clean off.
Clyde, and I think that Spartan... Oh, wow. Oh, no.
Flames lingering even underneath the golden tape. That is flame-retardant tape. It is resistant to any kind of direct heat impact.
A lot of the smoke you see coming off of Spartan is actually the adhesive from that flame-retardant tape burning off.
It really speaks to the power of that flamethrower, and Johnny's
having a blast. Oh, my gosh. This is what I love about Johnny Supas. He does not mind if his bot gets destroyed as long as it's glorious.
There are certainly consumable parts on the inside of a combat robot, and I think that Clyde is finding those consumables inside of Spartan. I'm going to tell you, I am surprised. Oh, wow.
A big hit from Spartan extinguished our flamethrower, so I'll fast forward the rest of the fight as we just get a bunch of pins on Spartan. Here we high-side Spartan up against the wall on top of his mini-bot, and because he's already used an unstick, he gets counted out.
We were really excited after that last fight. It was great to see that the new wedgelet config lasted just long enough to win us the full 3 minutes against a horizontal. And thinking about our next fight a little bit, it was going to be Silent X, ran by Alex and Gabe, which is an undercutter, which is a pretty difficult matchup for Clyde, considering that we were trying to run wedgelets into it. But thinking about our last fight, that went pretty well. Spartan's blade, for being mid-cutter, is actually very low to the ground, so that gave us a little bit more confident running the same wedgelets as we did in our last fight against Silent X.
A contender for the most powerful flame-based robot in the competition these days.
The flames are up.
Oh, they absolutely are, Sam. Silent X is a difficult robot to pin, and of course for Clyde to make that flamethrower work properly, he needs to not only attack Silent X, but pin Silent X up against the wall, or, other object. Oh, and there it is. Opportunity after opportunity is coming up for control. But Silent X just keeps bouncing around the arena.
Yeah, it's like Clyde is having a hard time corralling him.
Well, it's interesting. Normally, a robot like Silent X, you would dial down that weapon power a little bit, try to keep control. Today, Silent X is going to ram that throttle full blast. He just wants to bounce around the arena and never stop.
Right.
Because as soon as he stops,
that's when he gets smothered.
That's when he gets barbecued.
Ricky is absolutely right here. Because we can't pin Silent X, it's hard for us to burn Silent X. You'll also notice at this point in the fight, our flame is dying down. We only really have maximum fuel for about a minute before our flame starts to die down.
Chaos is a strategy.
Yeah, sometimes a lot of chaos is a strategy. see that that weapon is starting to taper off on Clyde. They're trying to reserve that fuel for just the right moment.
That makes sense. We limit the amount of fuel allowed in these robots, and it's based on the
there's the pin. That's the pin they need. Do they have enough fuel to make it work?
Sorry, Ricky, we don't.
Incredible control, and remember, folks, even if that flamethrower isn't blasting, that does count as aggression. That does count as some level of damage that's occurring. And Silent X is a hat.
Oh, that ought to do the trick.
Clyde looks good with a Silent X on.
He certainly does.
To make this video under 10 minutes, I'll fast forward here. After 2.5 minutes, we get one solid pin on Silent X. But we have no fuel.
We were really excited to have won this fight by a judge decision that was pretty close and to have just gone the full 3 minutes with Silent X in the first place. You can see that the screws for the inserts on the wedges got totally ripped out, so that'll be an improvement for the next iteration of Clyde. Our next fight was against Droopy, which was just as scary because he had won the World Championship in 2020. So our plan for Droopy was to just hopefully drive really sort of oppressively, and we want to make sure that he stays out of the center of the box, because the center of the box is where he can get up to speed a lot easily, and we're really scared to engage with him at full speed.
Robots fight.
But this is Droopy, a bot by Tommy Wong, and quite frankly, Droopy is death, destruction incarnate, and the destroyer of worlds.
In each of our fights throughout the day, we had more and more issues with ignition. We're not exactly sure why it took longer to ignite during each fight, but this is something we're going to investigate for the next iteration.
Torn, you know, like, oh my god, look at this. Fire and flames from Clyde. Wow, that's a full 10-second fiery pin from Clyde on Droopy.
Wow, there's that thermal cam shot. Check out all of the heat coming off of the front of Clyde. And it looks like Tommy's really having a hard time getting his bearings with all that flame in the box. One of the factors we don't talk about much is how distracting that is.
Droopy is really having trouble spinning up its weapons completely. Clyde just staying on top of its opponent, shoving it into the rail here.
But this is how Droopy gains space. It flops itself kind of around the box before it kind of lands far away from the opponent, and it's able to get back up to speed.
But it looks like something is dangling on Droopy.
Wow. Gabe doing a phenomenal job really maintaining control over this fight, following Droopy in every direction it kind of flops into.
Chaotic here for Droopy as it tries to get away from Clyde, but Clyde is staying on top of its opponent, just ready to re-engage and landing another good, clean 10-second pin.
It does look like the flames are still working, though a little bit less prominent at that point, but still able to put quite a bit of heat on a particular location on Droopy.
I'll fast forward through the rest of the fight here as we pin Droopy, trying to stop him from spinning up. Eventually he gets towards the middle of the box and he gets up to full speed, so I kind of just stay away for the last few seconds of the fight. No need to get damaged unnecessarily. We were super happy with the results of the Droopy fight. Not only did we go the full 3 minutes with a previous world champion, but our new experimental keep-away wedgelet design worked really well. We were a little intimidated by our next fight though, up against Supreme Ruler. What scares us about Supreme Ruler isn't the main bot, but the mini-bot, which is a flamethrower. So our plan going into the fight was to try to make the mini-bot explode before he exploded us.
Fight. Robots fight.
They have driven Clyde nearly perfectly throughout the day today, even taking out former world champion Droopy. But now they have to face not one but two.
During a regular fight, we don't like to turn our flamethrower off and on in case we aren't able to reignite later in the fight. However, during this fight, you'll notice we do turn our flamethrower off pretty often because there's so much fire in the box, we aren't worried about not being able to reignite. This helps us save a lot of fuel for later on in the fight.
Behind on the paint in the arena floor.
I love it.
Pins and flames abound. It does look like at this point Clyde has the better of that one engagement, but it could go either way. Look at the flames lingering behind in the arena behind them. Melted pieces of bot.
With our back to Supreme Ruler, there's not much their flamethrower mini-bot can actually damage. The sides of our robot are pretty well armored in aluminum tape, and the front of our robot is meant to handle fire in the first place.
Amazing, too, seeing these are both potent control robots. Oh, look at that.
Yeah, beautiful work there. It's pinned by Supreme Ruler and Supreme Ruler's mini-bot coming in for the flame.
You know, whoever said you can't fight fire with fire is just outright wrong.
Of course you can fight fire with fire. Like, that's an absurd thing to say.
Yeah.
I never understood that phrase. I mean, water works better, but, like, yes, fire works.
Yeah. Man, you look at that thermal camera we had up there for a minute. Both of these robots, the entirety of the chassis is just glowing hot.
Oh yeah, there's going to be a long wait time after this match is over to wait for these bots to cool down before any human hands go in there to pick these guys up. Now you can see the kind of color change on these bots. Both of them have kind of decked themselves with a little bit of heat-resistant tape to help kind of ward off the worst of the flame effects, but that doesn't really stop your bot from being cooked on the inside. It really just turns your robot into a baked potato, which is exactly what's happening right now to
Look
Supreme
at that,
Ruler.
ladies.
We've been really winning for the past minute, but as our fuel dies down at the end of the fight, and Supreme Ruler wins a few engagements with us, you'll see he gets the upper hand. Let's have a moment of silence for your boy Clyde. We lost the judge's decision to Supreme Ruler. It was overall a really close fight, but he definitely scored more control and aggression points, and we didn't deal the damage to the main robot that we wanted to. Still, we had a great time at the competition. We were really happy with how all of our fights went. We fought some amazing robots, some great builders, and we learned a lot about the robot too. In the future, we're working on a lot of burner upgrades for Clyde, trying to make that flamethrower as effective as possible. We're going to be posting videos on how each of those upgrades go, so stay tuned if you want to see us burning some stuff.